All right, well, we are at the top of the hour, so we'll get started. Hello and welcome to everyone. My name is Brandon Weesey. I will be the host for this TLC session titled Meaningful Mentorship, Building Bridges Between Mentors and Online Faculty. Our presenters will be Dr. Jennifer Robinson, Kelly Olson Stewart, Joanna Savarese, and Debbie Carpenter. And we are excited to have each of you here today, and to everyone who joined us, thank you for being here as well. Just to let you know, the chat window will be open during the session, so please do feel free to participate and ask questions, and those questions will either be answered as we go or will be answered towards the end. But I will hand it over to our presenters, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm Kelly Stewart, and we are glad that you have chosen Meaningful Mentorship, Building Bridges Between Mentors and Online Faculty. I'm glad to get us started on behalf of Debbie, Jen, and Joanna. Thank you for joining us. And as you see, we are disappearing off of video to focus on the content of the slides, and then we'll join you again on video at the end for discussion and Q&A. We're pleased to share our story, a story of evolving work to continue to find innovative ways to support our associate faculty. Mentoring is full of stories of success and sometimes challenges too, which you'll hear about today. Mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. So why mentor? Clearly the time has come for online universities to provide mentoring that assures the success of their greatest teaching force, its adjunct faculty. In 2017, the College of Ed had over 300 associate faculty teaching 83% of course sessions offered. So this data really compelled us with a new subcommittee to take another look at how we could leverage mentoring to focus on this critically important group to ensure student success. Our subcommittee does include additional members who are not present with us today and should be mentioned, and that includes Dr. Alan Belcher, Dr. Kathleen Kelly, and all led by Dr. Denise Maxwell. So this is an infographic we created that represents the components in our mentoring subcommittee work, and we'll be sharing these in brief today. These components include the creation of our mentoring subcommittee, focused on developing consistency in the mentoring practice, with a foundation on the heart and hope of mentoring, and clarity of our documentation and processes. We also honed our mentee identification practices to ensure that we were being strategic and inclusive with adding mentees to our mentoring list. Next, you're going to hear about our Mentoring 1.0 practices, which is what we fondly call our existing work. You're going to hear about what the work looks and sounds like, and with a consistent focus always on student success and consistency in the student experience. You will hear that word consistency mentioned frequently today by our team as we continue to go back, always focus on our students that drive our work. The next section of our infographic references a final report that includes insight on the willingness and ability of the mentee, as well as next step recommendations. Joanna will be actually sharing more specifically on that. And you will hear today about our ongoing process of refining and honing our work and what we like to call Mentoring 2.0 for 2019. And Debbie will share a bit more about what that looks and sounds like. But before we dive in too deep to these different components, let's hear from Jen as she sets the stage with our rationale and purpose.
Thank you, Kelly. Our purpose today is to share a method of mentoring that includes the HOPE model, to engage in a process where our mentees are more likely to reflect and change their practices. We have been piloting standardized mentoring materials and timelines in order to maintain consistency with supporting our associate faculty, setting us all up to be collaborators. We came to this juncture by realizing that we had some faculty who could use a bit more support in order to reach a higher threshold of proficient and distinguished on the IQR. Over the past couple of years, we have created a strong faculty support team who have been charged with conducting the IQRs and the monthly walkthroughs. The full-time faculty on this team are those who have demonstrated distinguished teaching practices and who engage in rubric norming several times a year to make sure that we are all on the same page during the IQR process. Throughout this, we noticed a need for some faculty to have a bit more support and started using mentors, Again, these are distinguished teachers based on those 3 data points of the IQR, the end of course survey, and the FSDA reports. We were using these full-time faculty to support associate faculty. It was at this point that we then decided that we needed a more formal group of faculty whose focus was only on mentoring, separate from the IQR process. This group worked together to create a shared purpose, normed the mentoring practice by shadowing another mentor over several mentee situations, and we continuously develop a toolkit that will be covered a bit later in this presentation. Our toolkit, observations, and feedback are all based on the online faculty course requirements. Additionally, we encourage best practices that are found to increase student success. Of importance to us are 2 critical components. Although these aren't the only 2 pieces, these are ones that are very, very important to us. First, we want to focus on practices that lead to student success and consistent delivery of quality educational experiences. And we want to focus on relationships with our associate faculty. This too will be covered a bit later in our presentation. As we move through the rest of this presentation, please keep in mind that our process is always being recalibrated through inter-rater reliability to ensure that we are maintaining consistency in the mentoring process. Now, Debbie's going to go into a bit more detail about the identification of our mentees, the mentoring process, and the mentoring toolkit.
Thanks, Jen. When it comes to identifying candidates for mentorship, there are several things we look at. First, we use the Ashford-wide Instructor Quality Review document as our evaluative tool. Now, the goal in the College of Education is that all associate faculty members are performing at a level of proficiency 3.0 and above on the IQR rubric. If a faculty member falls below 3.0, and if there are significant concerns across several areas of the rubric, the faculty member is recommended for mentoring. Secondly, if the FSDA team has raised concerns about a faculty member, for example, if the faculty member isn't meeting announcement posting requirements, grading deadlines, or making substantive discussion contributions as outlined in the Ashford Online Faculty Course requirements, he or she would be referred to our team for mentoring support. Another reason for mentoring is that a faculty member is new, just out of new faculty experience, which is the initial onboarding of a candidate. Here it is especially important that the candidate gets off on the right foot with 2 subsequent courses of mentoring support, offered by the respective course lead or program chair in the College of Education. In this case, we call this mentor designation first or second course support. Now, our mentoring process has been developed to offer clarity and consistency for all mentors. This not only fosters consistency among our designated mentoring team, but it helps to ensure that course leads within the College of Education are equipped to offer a consistent level of support to new members within their own courses and programs. We feel strongly that for mentoring to work, we must have buy-in from the mentee. Therefore, before a mentorship starts, I will send the candidate an email explaining that he or she will be receiving support in an upcoming course. I share expectations about what will happen throughout the mentorship, and then I ask that the candidate confirm if the offer of support is accepted. This allows the candidate to buy into the process. If the candidate declines the support, this decision is forwarded to College of Education leadership for further review. Our mentorship process is essentially guided by the mentoring toolkit, which our team is currently developing and refining in preparation for 2019. Within the toolkit, a mentor will find resources and supports suggesting communication style, communication frequency, a mentor partner, and a guide for troubleshooting common issues. What specific contents will a mentor find in the toolkit? Let's take a look. The toolkit will consist of several components. First, there will be a narrated Zoom video presentation with a general overview of the process for new mentors. Secondly, a mentoring map of communication will be provided. This map shows an overview of all 5 or 6 weeks of the mentorship course. It suggests specific days in the week when the mentor should communicate with the mentee, along with what those check-ins should contain. Flexibility is built into the map to allow for individual needs of the mentee and mentor. The new mentor will also be assigned a mentor partner, a seasoned contact who can be counted on to validate or calibrate observations and to provide guidance to the new mentor. There will be several exemplars of communication provided in the toolkit, which new mentors may use and or modify as needed. Introduction templates, weekly check-in templates, and closing templates are provided, along with an exemplar of a final post-mentorship feedback report. Lastly, there is a list of frequently asked questions about mentoring that the new mentor can refer to throughout the process. Our hope is that at any given time during the mentorship, each mentor feels confident in the quality and level of support he or she is providing to the faculty member in need. I'm now going to hand things over to Joanna, who's going to discuss characteristics of Mentoring 1.0.
Thank you, Debbie. The delicate balance of mentoring someone is not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves. The beautiful thing about mentoring is that we as mentors are given an opportunity to impact a colleague by initiating and creating a relationship where we provide tools, strategies, ideas, and support. And in that collaborative process, we also give the mentees freedom to take ownership and responsibility for the changes that he or she would like to make in their course. It's an honor to watch colleagues grow over the duration of time we spend mentoring. The hope is that we've instilled enough value in our relationship and in the content of our communications that the changes in the individual's teaching style continue to develop, or at the very least, the changes are sustained in future courses. In the mentoring process, we use the HOPE model for feedback. Within this model, a mentor is able to build rapport and a relationship with the mentee in order to create a safe space for the mentee to absorb the feedback provided by the mentor. The personal characteristics of a mentor must align with and should be consistent with the feedback model. Both the mentor and the specific feedback must come from a place of being helpful, optimistic, proactive, and demonstrate expertise in their communication and their experience in order to be effective. The first component in the model is helpful. Helpful feedback communicates specific suggestions and strategies for enhancing performance. For example, you might say to your mentee, you may wish to add in an introductory video and or weekly videos to vary the mode of communication. Or, make sure to use the rubric and post a comment in the discussion grading. Optimistic. Optimistic feedback communicates a balanced perspective about where expectations are met and where performance needs improvement. For example, you might say, you do an excellent job responding to your students in the discussions. Your posts are thorough and you ask strong critical thinking questions. In order to create deeper engagement, you can also respond to their Tier 2 discussion posts. Proactive. Proactive feedback communicates how maintaining or improving on performance can be useful performance opportunities. For example, you might say to your mentee, responding to Tier 2 posts improves faculty high expectations and student engagement. Expert. Expert feedback communicates specific examples and strategies demonstrating the mentor's comprehensive knowledge, skill, and competence with their performance. For example, in my course, I like to post multiple announcements per week and include outside links to organizations and resources that are relevant to the course or major. I also like to hold weekly office hours so that the students can communicate any questions, comments, or concerns during a specified and dedicated time frame. Mentee characteristics. Probably the #1 attribute to a successful mentorship is if the mentee is receptive, engaged, and invested in the process. On some level, the mentor can have an impact on whether or not a mentee is receptive. Using the HOPE model, it helps increase this buy-in process. Good ego strength and not being too defensive. Successful mentees have their guard down and have an open and honest understanding of themselves, their weaknesses, and where they need to grow. Defensive mentees may at first be sensitive, but over time may begin to embrace the process. If the mentee is too defensive and guarded, the intervention may not be successful. Collaborative and responsive. The mentoring process is meant to be a back and forth dialogue where it's a collaborative exchange of ideas and suggestions to improve performance. The collaboration and communication is about empowering the mentee to want to make changes by positively reinforcing the changes that occur over the weeks and asking the mentee from a variety of options what he or she would like to focus on each week. Ultimately, we want to see growth over the duration of our work together and sustained and or progressive growth in their future classes. After the mentorship has ended, we categorize mentee performance based on the following descriptions. Here are the 4 quadrants. Willing and able. Willing and able mentees have a willingness, attitude, and the skill level to meet Ashford expectations. They are ready to unleash. Willing and unable. The mentee has a willing attitude but does not have the skill level to meet expectations. They are coachable. Unwilling and able. Mentee has the capacity to meet expectations but has a resistant attitude and is unwilling to make or sustain the effort. They're categorized as resistant. Unwilling and unable. Mentee does not possess the skill set to meet expectations and has a resistant attitude and unwilling to make changes and or put forth the effort. Not a good fit. Overcoming obstacles. There have been lots of situations where we face challenging situations with our mentees. The obstacles that we face are mostly due to a lack of willingness versus the mentee's actual ability. Some examples of obstacles we face are when mentees are not implementing suggestions asked by the mentor, when mentees are not responding to communications sent by the mentor, or when mentees demonstrate little to no reflection or response to the mentor. If and when we encounter these types of situations, we unite as mentors. We hold impromptu meetings with the mentor group to discuss various challenging situations. We have monthly meetings to regroup. In this context, we receive validation and feedback from our mentor group, which gives us an opportunity to check ourselves and reflect on how to improve our own work. In our group meetings and as we unite as mentors, we create alternative ways to get through to the mentees by changing our communication style and approach. For example, we sometimes need a more direct approach in our communication or we need to pick up the phone and personally call the mentee to discuss any challenges that have come up in the process. Ultimately, our group meetings allow us to create ways to best meet the needs of our mentees. Now Debbie's going to discuss the next steps.
Thank you, Joanna. So you may be wondering where our team hopes to go in 2019 as we consider our evolution from this year, Mentoring 1.0, to next year, Mentoring 2.0. Essentially, our number one goal across the university is student success. So our vision? We strive to impact student success through proficient faculty instruction. This means that faculty support must be clear, consistent, and caring throughout all programs in the College of Education. This vision will be supported in several ways. We will hold mentors and mentees accountable for their performance. For example, all mentees will be surveyed to assess the quality of support provided to them by their mentors. All mentees will be monitored weekly when their mentorship ends to ensure that areas of concern have been addressed and mentees implement proficient practice consistently. Toolkits will be created for all components of faculty support and development. For example, whether one is a new mentor, a new IQR reviewer, or even a new mentee, we will provide the tools and training that will help all individuals feel comfortable in their roles. We will provide formalized training to program chairs and course leads so that they feel comfortable with expectations and resources available to them. Lastly, we will honor our associate faculty by providing transparency in our communication in order that they can be more reflective and growth-minded in their practice. Thank you so much for allowing us to share with you today. We'd love to pop on our videos, ladies, if you would join me. And we'd love to open up the floor for your questions, your comments, your ideas. Please open your chat window from home, and if you'd prefer to come on the line to share, we'd welcome this as well. I'll go ahead and pop our chat open. We would love to know if you are already mentoring faculty, if you have questions about things that we have covered within our presentation.
And I think any other ideas of maybe there's gaps, maybe there's an area we haven't considered or something that you have been doing or you've seen done somewhere else that would be useful to our mentoring group, and we would love to get some suggestions as well.
And as we're waiting for our participants to make comments, I really just want to touch again on what Joanna has said, and you guys feel free to unmute too, just in case you didn't remember to. Just the whole idea of coming together as a team of mentors. You know, oftentimes you're working with a mentee and you feel like you're doing what should be done in order to be successful with that relationship. And then we get together as a group and find out that, you know what, there are some things that we hadn't considered in our approach. And that has been really, really helpful in working with all of you and just reflecting on my own communication, on my own style, and learning some new techniques. So that I would wholeheartedly recommend to anybody else who is working with mentees, is to really collaborate in that process. Hi, Denise. So Denise has said, can you share some of the challenges you've encountered along the way? Well, absolutely. And I would ask, you know, any of my team to speak out on that. Just one that comes to mind for me is, you know, when we establish that communication with our mentee and set an expectation early on that the mentee should respond to us within 48 hours of receiving an email. One of the challenges that I will immediately encounter is not hearing back from a mentee, not having any response, and getting concerned, growing concerned as I approach that 48-hour time mark. So any of you may also have another strategy. What's worked for me in that instance is going to find out additional contact information. I typically will find a personal email, a phone number. I found that texting is a wonderful way. So many of us have our phones handy and are always, you know, on our person. So I've been able to reach mentees that way. Very successfully, and then just reiterate the expectation of checking that faculty email. Since that is how our own students are going to reach us most of the time, it's important to be available. Do any of you have other challenges that come to mind? Jen, I see that you're waving.
I think at the beginning, when you're talking about getting that response back, one of the things that I've noticed is through those first couple of exchanges, it really is setting a foundation and creating a relationship with the person, letting them know that I'm not here to lord over them, so to speak, but to really be a partner in helping them be successful. We want them to stay. We want them to be successful. So really spending the first 3 to 4 emails, as someone once told me, being a cheerleader, letting them know that I really am here to support, to help, to bounce ideas off of, and just to be of service to them and helping them become a stronger professional teaching online.
Wonderful. And Kelly, I wonder if you might speak to the second question, a personal success story, because I think that you had shared one actually with the team not too long ago about a mentee who had turned a corner in that relationship with you. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. I think sometimes there has been a sense of, oh my gosh, I'm being watched, or there's a sense of fear that is generated, not unlike when your principal would come into your classroom if you were in the K-12 world, right? And that sense of, instead of this is my time to shine, it's that panic sense. And so sometimes we do receive responses back from our mentees that are defensive and that are frustrated, or they may not understand the process. Now, certainly we've put things into place to help them understand what the process is going to look like. But I have had actually a couple recently mentees who have maybe been not as warm at the beginning. And then as the relationship continues over that 6 weeks, they realize the reciprocity in the relationship. They can provide suggestions. I'll tell them that I found something in their course that I want to use in my own practice, which is really affirming to them.
Yeah.
And I have heard back from mentees, even they're 2, 3, 4 courses in, and they'll still be willing to reach back. They'll send an email that says, oh my gosh, this really made a difference for me. Or I thought of you when I was posting another announcement with a resource that I found, because sometimes mentees just need the permission to make the course their own. They think I can't put another announcement in, or I couldn't add another resource to the discussion to enhance this back and forth. And so it's really affirming when the person has been challenging or difficult and then they come back to you. That feels like a success.
Absolutely. And, I just finished with a mentee who was, again, so thankful at the end of the experience and said, gosh, I had no idea what I was still missing and what I could do, my opportunities. And I just feel like I've learned so much in this 5 weeks, and basically said, you're not letting go of me that easily. I'm going to be back in touch with you. And I just thought, you know what, that was my greatest hope, that we really want to have that ongoing engaged relationship with our mentees and know that we are support for them for as long as they are at Ashford, and that they can reach out at any time. So that's wonderful, Kelly. I'm glad to know that. Wonderful. Any other successes or even challenges? I know, Joanna, you had spoken about, reasons for mentors to unite. Was there anything else that you've encountered that's been a challenge you've overcome in your mentor role?
Fortunately, you guys had all the challenges. Teasing. I think that the biggest thing in the beginning is what Kelly was talking about, is there is sort of this level of defensiveness and just a little bit of worry when we initiate that relationship, like somebody's going to be watching me. And I would say that the majority of mentees that I've had have showed progress, usually around week 3. When they're at week 3, you start to see they're really making changes, they're really making progress. They've implemented your suggestions, because you're sort of, in the beginning, you don't want to give too much, but we sort of lay out, here are some things that you can change. And then by week 3, I sort of let the mentee decide, hey, what do you want to focus on? What's in sort of within your world or your expertise that you could add in, and where do you want to go with it? And so I kind of see a little bit of a shift in that time frame where they really start to take a little bit more responsibility and ownership of the process. And then typically, by the end of it, it's the majority of feedback has been pretty helpful. I will say, though, that we just had a situation kind of recently with one of our other mentors where she faced a challenging situation where her mentee just wasn't really understanding and really getting the communication. So she wasn't picking up what she was putting down. And so it was really challenging. So the mentor kind of reached out to the group and said, hey, I need a consult really quickly. And Debbie and I were available at that moment, based probably on our time zone. And we picked up the phone and we had a conversation, or I think we did a Zoom with one of the other mentors. And we realized that the communication style was too, it's the wrong word, is wishy-washy, but it just wasn't direct enough of what she really needed her to do in order to improve in her classroom. So as soon as she took that more direct approach, like, listen, there's no option right now, here's what needs to happen. A little bit less strict than that, but she gave a little bit more direct advice, and the mentee actually really picked up on that, and she realized I need to turn this around. So that was an example of some successes, and also sort of how we've handled a challenge as a group.
That's an awesome example, because I think, you heard us talk about the HOPE model, and we believe strongly in using that model to communicate with the mentees. But I think there can sometimes occur the instance where the mentee may get almost lost in the positive and not catch the constructive suggestion. So it was really speaking in a more candid, concise, direct way that the mentor was able to get through to the mentee and have this person realize that it was not a suggestion, but a requirement that needed to be fulfilled. So thank you for that example.
Debbie, I think one of the things that has been useful as well is initially when we started, we didn't have clarity in the communication process. There wasn't consistency that each week what we were really going to do was highlight, something that was a success for the mentee and then provide a suggestion. And even if there were 5 things that you knew that they needed to change over the course of their 6 weeks, we weren't going to put that all on them initially.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
baby stepping through that. And so the affirmation and consideration process, really, we were able to refine that. And so now I think anyone who looks at the mentoring process, our emails would look, they're nuanced to your own personalities, but they certainly look similar as far as the type of affirmation and consideration you're providing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just as we would want for our own students, our students are going to be much more receptive to our suggestions when they feel that they have something to hang their hat on, that they have something to give them hope, that they're already doing well, that they can already feel valued and recognized for doing so. I think our intent in really providing that structure of strengths and opportunities, glows and grows, kudos and gifts, however we decide we're going to phrase it, we are starting with what we see that's going well. And we do try to limit those suggestions and have them focus, as Joanna said, on that one thing. What's that one thing you're going to try next week to enhance your instruction and enhance the student experience? We put it back again on, you're doing this so that your students have a better experience. So that's what we're all about.
Well, great. Well, thanks to each of you for your expertise, your experience, and your insights in the presentation. We are at the top of the half hour, so we will draw it to a close. But if you do have further questions for our presenters, their contact information is on the screen, so I'm sure that they would welcome further dialogue from everyone who's interested. So thanks to everyone for joining us on this session. Just as a reminder, we do have a TLC app. So if you've not downloaded that yet, you can go and search for Ashford TLC in your app store and begin to engage with other attendees and presenters. And thanks again to our presenters and for everyone who attended, and enjoy the rest of TLC. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.